Randy, was it
Yeah.
cold at your house? Was it windy and cold all weekend long?
It was cold enough to where I needed a hat almost, but I braved the elements. Actually, got my car washed on Sunday. I waited until it got about freezing or so. And I'll tell you what, a damp towel, wet hands, and about 32 degrees with a slight breeze. I was glad to come back inside, let's just say.
Yeah, I'm with
Hey,
you
folks,
there.
Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. I run our professional center. We are, as you might expect, happy to help folks, professionals that are in a job search. You can find me on LinkedIn. We work by appointment, but every week we get together. I do with Teddy Burriss, my good friend and cohort in crime here. And on Wednesday, we do a really nice show. And on Monday, this show's a good one, Teddy, but it's shorter.
Yeah.
So, we just talk a little bit about some tips and stories, and we'll talk about our guest and our topic coming up on Wednesday. That'll be kind of cool. So, Teddy, let's figure out who you are and what you do over there.
Yeah, Randy, for those who've never met me, my name is right there on the screen. It says Teddy Burriss, and I'm a LinkedIn strategist. I'm also a Google Workplace strategist. I teach LinkedIn and Google Workplace to business professionals who want to use those business tools to grow their business. I love helping sales professionals and sales leaders and across any industry on how to use LinkedIn and Google Workplace as business tools. Randy and I get together a couple times a month. Sometimes you see us and sometimes you don't. And when you don't see us, we're cutting up and acting like fools. No, we're not. We're business professionals. That's every single moment of our lives. Right, Randy?
That's our story, and we're sticking to it.
Hey, I got something new, dude.
Okay.
I got something new.
Yeah.
So, my proverbial crystal ball.
I do. Did you get a new crystal ball?
I'm working on one, man. I'm working on one. I haven't quite got it together. This one is huge, Randy.
It looks like a bubblegum machine.
It does, but it's really a crystal ball.
Or a big bubble. Did you just blow a big bubble?
It's really a crystal ball. And I got to get the batteries in it, and I got to get it programmed. And as soon as I get it programmed, I'll let you know, because when I get this program, Randy, this will tell us everything we need to know about the future. Oh, it's heavy. So we'll get back to that later.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we've got a we always do a little fun thing on birthdays and famous events and so forth. So really not a ton. Well, I guess it depends on what you would say would be a famous event. But you remember the Kennedy assassination back in the 60s? Mm-hmm. Lee Harvey Oswald. Was he the lone shooter? Was it a conspiracy? We're not going to dive into that, but remember Jack Ruby.
He's the dude that shot the other guy, right?
He's the one who, remember in the garage of whatever, where he came up out of the blue. Remember the guy with the Texas hat going like that? And anyway, Ruby was the one who murdered Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, on this date in 1964, he was sentenced to death for that crime. So there's that. And also, I grew up watching on Sunday evening, I think it was Sunday evening with my folks, 60 Minutes after football was over. And Mike Wallace retired after many years. In 2006, he retired from 60 Minutes. Of course, his son is also in the media. But anyway, that was a show that and it's still on. It's one of the longest running shows, I think, in history. So also birthdays. A guy who I'm not often compared to, Teddy, although I wish I were, Albert Einstein.
Well, I compare you to Albert Einstein all the time, dude.
He was born on this date in 1879. A couple of more contemporary folks. Remember, it is better to look good than to feel good. Saturday Night Live. And big Yankees fan Billy Crystal turned 73 today. And maybe the greatest shooter of all time in the NBA. And he's still doing it. Steph Curry was born on this date in 1988. So there you go. I've got a quick story for you, and it's really just not to get too syrupy here, but to kind of stop and smell the roses a little bit. I mean, people complain, time change. My pets have me up at 4 a.m, and I get that. But it also gives you an extra hour to get outside after work. The weather gets warmer. The trees are budding. I don't have to wear a hat as often, at least for the cold. Now I do for the sun. But take time to enjoy and appreciate maybe the small things, and whether it's a word of encouragement that you offer or you receive, We tend to go through life, and I'm guilty as anybody. You get into a routine, you kind of do the same things over and over and over again. Next thing you wake up and you're, 20 years later. So don't do that. Take the opportunity every day to be, show gratitude, be appreciative. And I think just in general, it'll brighten your mood, but also those around you. So there you go. That's a quick one. Yeah.
Hey, you just made me think about, the gerbil wheel analogy. We get on the gerbil wheel of life and we spin and we spin and we spin, Yeah. Imagine this. We spin so hard on our gerbil wheel that the gerbil wheel bearings are going bad and it's getting all rickety. Get off the damn gerbil wheel. Oh, did I say that out loud?
It's okay. The sensors, it's a Monday. They weren't paying attention to you.
Daylight saving times change. Hey, here's my story, Randy. I remember years ago, a client called me up, a friend called me up, and she said, Teddy, I want you to help me. I want you to do this project for my company. And she would use words like this. I don't care what it costs. I'm like, oh, that's great. But I knew that she really wanted me to do the work. And so we talked about the project. We outlined the project. It was outlined exactly right. She knew exactly what she's going to get. She was excited, Randy. She was excited that I was going to do this work, and the project is what we're going to do, and me working with her team. So I wrote up the project for her, and I wrote up a proposal, and I emailed it to her. And the next day she called me, and she says, Teddy, I'm disappointed in you. And I'm like, what happened? Ooh. She says, you didn't spell the name of my company wrong. The owner of the company's name is Steve, and you wrote Bill, and you didn't even get his email address right because you didn't have his name right. And she said, Teddy, I'm just really disappointed in you. And she said, I am so disappointed. And she was sincere. You could hear it in her voice. She was so disappointed. She said, I'm not even going to give you a second chance. We're just going to can this whole project because I'm that disappointed in you. And Randy, that for me was a telling moment. That for me was an experience that I will never forget.
An epiphany.
I'm telling you, this hurt. I mean, it hurt big time, and it really taught me a lesson.
It did, yeah.
Do the right thing. Pay attention to details. Put in the energy. Put in the time. Don't go busting through it just because you think it's a done deal. Give it the energy it needs. You should give every single thing you do, so that when you're done, the end result is not something that you're proud of. It's something the other person will be proud of. I remember I did not look the guy's name up correctly. Somehow or another, I saw the word Bill associated with it. Turned out Bill was the previous owner. So for me, the story is, I'm sharing this with you just because it's important for us not to make these dumb mistakes. So put in the time, put in the energy, and do your research before you submit, so that you make sure you get it. That's my story.
Very smart. And also, if you're a job hunter and if you're trying to do a cover letter, make sure you change the name of the company to this job that you're applying for. And
you've never seen that, have you, Randy?
Oh, no, never. But pay attention to detail, because you never know. Sometimes it's what you might think is a small misstep or omission, especially if it's someone's name.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily appreciate that. So, hey, by the way, let's talk our guest coming up on Wednesday, the 16th. Cindy Gordineer will be our guest. And for those here in the Triad, you may be familiar with Cindy. She is the president and CEO of United Way of Forsyth County. By the way, she'll be retiring at year's end. Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit. But we're going to talk about several topics, and she has a radio TV background, so she is very open to conversation. So we hope you'll join us and comment and ask questions. But Cindy's going to talk a little bit about community engagement, both from how it benefits employees, job seekers, and also companies. But beyond that, we're going to get behind the scenes a little bit as far as United Way and how they operate. Okay, so I donate, let's say through the company, my employer, I donate to United Way. Okay, fine. So now United Way has this money, but how does United Way work? And how do they decide where the money goes? How do they monitor to ensure that it's being utilized properly? What strings, if any, are attached? Also, we'll talk about something that is no longer in existence. And that is the loaned executive program. Remember that, Teddy, for years?
I had a bunch of buddies that used to do that.
I asked her about that the other day, and she said, no, we've discontinued that program. So we'll get into maybe some of the why behind that. And also, if you're so inclined to donate money to help with the Ukrainian situation and elsewhere, we'll talk a little bit about how to, I'll call it buyer beware. Yeah. Not that you're buying, but just to help ensure that the monies are going as intended. And she'll cover that and other questions that we have. I've got a tip for you, and that kind of dovetails with having Cindy as our guest on Wednesday. Yeah. And it's this: resumes have changed over time, somewhat, not a ton. I mean, fine, they've changed some, but I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed over the years, and that is, I think now more than ever, it's of value to put or to list some of your community involvement on your resume. Yeah. Now, you don't want to go into potentially controversial topics, whether it's political or causes and so forth, because you don't know who may be reading that on the other end. Yeah. But years ago, I was more of the mind to say, no, focus on the job, my skills, my accomplishments, and what I do in my spare time, not so much. But I think now we are seeing companies selling themselves or projecting the image of being good community stewards, whether it's with the environment or whether it's being engaged in causes and in other community activities. And so logically, they may want to hire people who also have that civic-minded mentality. And so, again, to the degree is certainly that it's not controversial and that it might help you, I would encourage you to think about putting some of that community engagement on your resume.
So if I'm the CEO or if I'm the a volunteer coordinator for snake wrestling of Davie County, should I not put that on there?
I think we need to talk about that one, Teddy. I think we should talk. We should talk that one.
All right, here's my tip, buddy.
Okay.
By the way, I'm not. That was just total satire for those who don't get me.
Okay,
right,
good.
Here's my tip.
There.
Show your, in the context of resumes. So we're talking resumes, okay? I'm with Randy. Put your volunteer experience in there. Show that you care enough to help others. Also, show your interest on your resume. I've been doing a lot of resume reviews lately, and I've noticed a lot of resumes coming out specifically from the younger generation. And younger generation, I'm talking about, these are 30-year-olds or 25 to 30-year-olds. This is pretty interesting. They show their interests, and their interests are very diverse. Nothing inappropriate. But here's what I don't see on some of these interest statements. I don't see the interest to read, to learn, to practice, to experiment, to collaborate, to have conversations, to work with people. I don't see those kind of interests. I mean, just to hang out with people would be, for me, an interest that would show that you like working with others. Now, you don't need to have an interest statement that says, I like working all 10 hours a day and doing everything the boss wants me to do. No, that's all fake. Real interest, but hopefully your interest includes personal development, personal growth, and engaging with others. I think that could add value relevantly and appropriately. Don't smoke and mirrors, but I think it could add value to your interest statements. And there's nothing wrong with saying hanging out with my dog. There's nothing wrong with saying taking care of my plants, et cetera, et cetera. But think about what are your interests saying to that hiring manager. So that's my thought, Randy.
Yep. Good stuff. Yeah. And it's a big world, and we all have differing interests, hobbies, passions, and they hire more than just a piece of paper. They're hiring you as a person. But don't lose sight, and I think that bears meant, don't lose sight of the main purpose of the resume is to hook the reader to want to talk to you. And so if they don't have the hard skills, you don't have the accomplishments, keywords on there, it's going to hurt your chances to get noticed. So good deal, Teddy. Good. All right. Wednesday's coming.
Yeah, right around the corner in a couple, in 48 hours or so. I will see you. I'll be ready to go. You take care, and we'll talk later, buddy.
All right. We'll see you Wednesday. Thanks. See you, Teddy.